I just want to say that the whole Bible is a story, right? Story. And Jesus used stories to teach. And most of the world loves stories. In all ages of people love stories. Children and old people, everybody loves stories. Every culture and society has had storytellers. Now we in the Western world, in America and Europe, we in the Christian tradition, mostly we didn't tell stories, we give sermons. Like lectures, we give lectures in church, we give sermons. Even here, because you've been influenced by the Western tradition.
Yes.
But the more native African way to communicate is storytelling. Not only Africa, but almost every society, the more natural way to communicate is storytelling. And remember, the Bible is a story. So we think God was pretty wise to put His word into a story. This is not a philosophy book. It's not a science book. It's a story.
It's a story. Yes.
So we think God was pretty smart to put His word in the form that people love to hear. I'm going to tell you a story today, and you're going to be able to learn this story and take it with you and tell others. Okay? And in the Christian missions world, more and more missionaries are learning that the way we should communicate the Bible is through stories. Because most of the people of the world yet, 70% of the world, can't read or write. They're oral learners. They learn through stories. So when you learn stories, when anybody learns Bible stories that are told, they don't even have to know how to read or write. They can still learn the stories and tell others. Okay, now I'm ready to tell the story.
Yes.
And it's 5 parts. And you can do these hand signs with me. Okay? Well, let's just pray and ask God's blessing first on the story. Father, thank you for your word, your story. Thank you that you have given us your stories, which are sacred and inspired. And thank you that we can tell this story and hear it today as a group. And so we commit this to you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Okay, now, there's 5 parts. Do this with me. I'm going to first give you an introduction. Do that with me. You do that? Introduction, yeah. Then I'm going to tell you the story like this. Do this. Then I'm going to ask a volunteer to retell it. So listen well. If there's not a volunteer to retell it, I'll ask you to turn in pairs and twos and somebody tell it to your partner.
agambye nti obanga ekyo tekisobose ono ayinza kukola naye akole nooni.
Yeah. But that's volunteer to retell. Then I'm going to do a lead through. I'm going to lead you all through the story like this.
ayagala
So
kutuyisa mu ffenna
we'll go through the story 3 times
tugenda
so
kuyita
that you
mu
get
mirundi
it in your
esatu
heart and mind. You have it in your
ng'okozesa
heart.
omutima gwo n'emmeeme yo.
Then through questions, we're going to look at observations in the story. What do we see in the story? Through questions, we'll find the truths that God has.
okubuuza
That's right.
ebibuuzo
We'll see the truths that
ebyo
God has in
by'owulidde
the story.
ng'okola bw'oti.
And then after we do that and we talk about the story, so you're all going to get involved. You're not just going to sit there and listen to me. You're going to get involved in the story.
ffenna tujja kukyenyigiramu,
So you won't go to sleep.
tewali agenda kwebaka,
You're going to get involved in the story.
buli omu
okay?
akyenyigiremu mu kasitola ako mu lugero olwo.
And then after that, the last thing is we find applications to today, to the heart.
nga tumaze ekyo kyonna
Applications to our heart.
tulabe ekintu ekyo oba nga kiyingidde mu mutima,
How does this story speak to your heart?
nti ekyo ky'oyingiza kyogera kitya n'omutima gwo.
Okay. So that's the 5 parts we'll go through.
nti ebyo ebitundu ebitaano bye tugenda kuyitamu.
Introduction, do it with me. Introduction,
Ng'otandika
tell the story,
teera story,
ask her volunteer to retell,
ng'osaba
lead
omuti
through, observations,
okwekenneenya
and applications. Okay.
mu
Thank
kategede.
God for the birds. Okay. So now, first I'm going to give you the introduction to the story. This story took place about 800 years before the coming of Jesus.
nti kuno olugero lwagenda kutunyumiza lwaliko emyaka 800 yesu n'okuzaalwa nga tanaba kuzaalwa,
It took place in the land of Israel,
nti kyaliwo mu nsi y'Isirayiri ya Buyudaaya eyo,
and it was shortly after the time of Elijah the prophet.
nti kyali kya Eriya nabbi nga yakagenda.
Yeah, Eliyahu, Elijah the prophet. And Elijah had been taken up to heaven in a whirlwind.
Eriya yali yakatwalibwa mu kigaali ky'omuliro n'atwalibwa mu ggulu,
And now his successor was Elisha.
eyamudda mu bigere yali ayitibwa Erisa,
Elisha the prophet.
naye nga nabbi.
And it was a time that when people were very poor in Israel.
Waaliwo ekiseera abantu olwo baali baavu nnyo mu nsi ya Isirayiri.
Many people were hungry.
Abantu banne enjala gy'otalaba nga
Many
kakutya,
people couldn't buy their basic
abantu
things
nga
for life.
nga tebasobola kwegulira n'obuntu buno bwa bulijjo n'omuwogo.
So that's my introduction.
Nti eyo ntandikwa.
Okay,
Yeah, story.
now we tell the story. Here's the story. Now, and I guess I have you translate. I'll do a couple sentences and have you translate. One day, a widow from the wives of the sons of the prophets came to Elisha.
Olunaku lumu omu ku baana mwandu abaali batabani ba nabbi yajja eri Erisa, prophet nabbi.
The group of prophets was called the sons of the prophets.
Baana be lwe baabeeranga bangi nga babayita abaana b'abanabbi.
And a widow from the wives of the sons of the prophets came to Elisha one day,
Oyo namwandu n'agenda eri Erisa
and she said,
n'amugamba,
"My husband, your servant, is dead,
baaba wange omukozi wo omuddu wo afudde,
and you know how he served the Lord.
naye okimanyi okitegeera nga bw'abadde aweereza Mukama.
But now the creditors have come,
Naye abambanja bazze,
and they're threatening to take my 2 sons
naye batabani bange babiri babatwala,
and make them slaves."
naye babatwale babakozese nga baddu.
So Elisha says to her,
Erisa n'amugamba,
"Oh, well, what can I do for you?
nkolere ki?
What do you have in your house?"
Kiki ekyolina mu nnyumba yo?
And she says, I have nothing
N'amugamba, sikiwale kyenina
except, well, just this little jar of olive oil.
okuggyako akasumbi k'amafuta kenina mu nnyumba yange.
So Elisha says, "Okay,
N'amugamba nti kale
I want you to go out among your neighbors
njagala ogende mu baliraanwa bo bonna,
and borrow as many empty jars as you can.
oyewole yazikeyo ebijirikani bingi bitereete mu nyumba
And then go back into your house
oga ate oddeyo mu nyumba yo
with your 2 sons
ne batabani bo babiri abo
and close the door.
ogalewo nyumba yo
And then take your little jar of olive oil
okwate akasumba ko k'amafuta gano
and pour it into all the empty jars.
oyiwe ku bijirikani bino ebitalimu kintu kyonna.
So the woman did that. The widow did that.
Omukyala oyo namwandu n'agonda n'akola ekyo.
She went out among her neighbors
n'agenda mu baliraanwa be
and she borrowed as many empty jars as she could
ebijirikani n'abyewolayo n'abyeyazikayo
with her sons, her 2 sons.
ne batabani baabo babiri
And she went into her house
n'ayingira mu nyumba ye
and she closed the door
n'agalawo nyumba ye
and she took her little jar of oil
n'akwata kasumbi ke kamafuta n'agenda
and
ng'ayiwa
set aside
ekyo
all the
n'ateeka ku bbali
jars. She set aside all these
n'ateeka
jars
ku bbali
and the oil kept flowing.
n'amafuta ne
Oil
gagenda ne
kept
gajjula.
flowing. And they filled many, many jars of oil.
Ah,
And it never ran out. It kept on filling.
ekyakolamu bw'ate jerikani kijjula n'ateeka ku mbali naye amafuta gano agalimu kasumbi kano tegagenda.
And finally, there were no more empty jars.
Kigenze kutegeerekeka nti ebijirikani byonna bijjudde naye akasumbi n'amafuta teganaba kuvaamu naye ebijirikani bijjudde.
And so the woman said to her son, "Bring me another jar."
Omukazi ono namwana n'agamba nti mugende mwewole ebijirikani ebirala.
And the boy said, "There are no more. There are no more jars. They're gone."
Nti ebijirikani byonna mu baliraanwa byonna byali biweddeyo.
So the oil stopped flowing.
Okuvaawo amafuta nga tegakyakulukuta
Stopped flowing.
n'obwakola bw'ati nga tegakyavaamu.
So the widow went back to the man of God
Nti namwandu n'addayo omusajja wa Katonda ono n'adda Erisa
and she told him
n'amugamba
what happened.
ekyalabye.
And Elisha said, "Good.
Erisa n'amugamba neyanza
Now go sell the oil
genda otunde amafuta
and pay your debts,
osasule amabanja
and you and your sons can live on the rest."
gwe ne batabani bo mweyagale nga kikira kiki.
And that's the end of the story.
Nti story akagero kakomyawo. Haleluya.
Now, turn to your neighbor, two by two,
kyukira muliraanwa wo nga bwe muli babiri.
and I want one of you to retell the story the best you can remember.
Njagala obuulire munno olugero olwo nga bw'osobola kulujjukira nga bwali bwogedde nga bwe lubadde.
And I want the person with the longest hair to tell the story.
Ng'ayagala nti n'omutima gwo nagwo guddemu gwo